Labour has entered its final stage of completion in turning from a social democratic party to a completely neoliberal one. Over the course of the last 5 years, and especially the last 2 years, we've seen Corbyn-era policies dropped. Then we saw arguments being made from the leadership and Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves in favour of right-wing economics. They've dropped the pretense of redistribution in favour of growing the economy in order to improve lives, i.e. trickle down. Well, this must be the clearest example of Labour becoming a fully Thatcherite party in a red rosette. Rachel Reeves has hinted at tax cuts for top earners as the Shadow Chancellor attempts to recast Labour as the party of economic growth. Miss Reeves vowed to ensure success is celebrated under a Labour government as she outlined ambitions to ease the burden of Rishi Sunak's multi-year stealth tax raid on workers. Asked if she agreed that she wanted to lower taxes on workers across the spectrum, including those earning above 100 grand, the Shadow Chancellor responded, yes. Her comments are the strongest signal yet that Labour wants to woo higher earners ahead of an expected general election this autumn. I mean, has she not worked out the glaringly obvious point, which is that Liz Truss crashed the economy by cutting taxes for the rich? Does she not remember relentlessly attacking the Tories for what Liz Truss did? And now they're essentially implementing the same policy. Now, Reeves says they will fund it instead of what Liz Truss did. What Truss did was essentially announce it out of the blue with no plan to pay for it. That spooked the market. So yeah, all right. If Rachel Reeves is the Chancellor and they do cut taxes for the rich with a plan to fund it, it might not crash the economy if they have a plan and they don't spook the markets. But speaking on optics here, Labour are like, well, even though we spent the last year attacking the Tories for destroying the economy by cutting taxes on their rich mates, we're going to do it now. And I'm intrigued in how she's going to fund this because all the nice things we wanted, such as scrapping the child benefit cap so we could see a reduction in child poverty, couldn't be done because we can't afford it. But they can afford tax cuts for rich people. Get the fuck out of there. This is a classic 101 Tory policy. Tax cuts for the rich, austerity for the many. Please remind me, all those who are watching, who are like, well, we need to get the Tories out. What is the difference? Please tell me. And I love her line when she says, well, we must ensure success is celebrated. Like, you don't think that's not already the case? Are you not aware of the very real Western culture of the fetishization of money and being rich? Are you not aware that leftists every single day have to explain to people that inequality isn't because of some people work harder than others, but because of our rigged economic system? That capital produces capital. So if you already have a bit of money, that extra money can be reinvested to create more money, which is why the widening gap between the rich and the poor is a natural phenomenon under capitalism. And you don't need to be a Marxist to understand that. Just basically a middle-of-the-road social democrat, which is what you're supposed to be, Rachel, and you're in a social democratic party. Did you miss the memo that the wealth of the rich has exploded since COVID? World's 5 richest men double the money as poorest get poorer. The world's 5 richest men have more than doubled their fortunes to $681.5 billion since 2020, while the world's poorest, 60%, almost 5 billion people, have lost money. The yawning gap between rich and poor is likely to increase, the report says, and will lead to the world crowning its first trillionaire within a decade. At the same time, it warns, if current trends continue, world poverty will not be eradicated for another 229 years. This is the horrific state of affairs. Now, I know there is a difference between people in that bracket and those on 100 grand a year, but what I'm saying is we are living in a time with unprecedented income and wealth inequality, and the focus of an incoming Labour government is to drop redistribution, embrace the right-wing policy of growing the economy to improve the standard of living, and now cutting taxes that includes those in the top 5% of the country is fucking gross. Plus, this isn't good for the economy. We need to rebalance it because not only are we seeing misery and pain on a mass scale, we need people to have a larger stake in the economy. It's a very bad sign when millions of people are spending their whole paychecks on rent, bills, food, and not much else for other things. And the economic policies that have allowed that, i.e. neoliberalism, has been fully embraced by Labour. None of these things will be fixed under a Starmer government. And at the end of a 5-year Starmer Labour government, millions will still be struggling unless Labour recognises their bullshit policies and are forced to implement a far more interventionist approach on the economy. The only way to address this huge crisis is to spend, is to invest. And I think it's crazy how 5 years ago at the 2019 general election, both Jeremy Corbyn and Boris Johnson vowed to spend loads. And now, with everything far worse, we have a cowardly Labour Party that thinks ending child poverty is unaffordable. I wonder how many scrapping on the child benefit caps it costs to fund these tax cuts. I wonder how many benefit caps we spend on bombing Yemen. Frankly, we can't afford to not implement the core economic policies of the Corbyn era. If we want to tackle the energy crisis, we need to renationalise our energy sector. And if there is a huge spike in costs, the government can take that hit and protect consumers. We need to spend money on ramping up renewable energy, so we'll never see an energy crisis ever again. I mean, I don't know if they've realised that solar and wind are literally unlimited, although unlimited resources don't work under capitalism because it predicates itself on scarcity. So if you're wondering why we haven't radically transformed our energy systems under capitalism, well, there's your answer. Instead of what Labour are offering, which is a market-led solution, which we cannot wait for the market to deliver because we are heading towards a climate catastrophe. Our public transport is broken, and it's, very good for the economy if we make it easier for people to freely move across the country, whether that's for work or whatever. But Starmer then said he wouldn't finish HS2 in the North as Prime Minister. Now, all these things will have an upfront cost, yeah. But in the long term, some of it will end up paying for itself. And in other ways, we will have a far better, vibrant economy through increased tax revenues and more quality jobs. I mean, that is just the basics. But Labour are like, sorry, no can do, we'll just cut taxes instead. We have to break away from this narrative. We have to break away from the fact that this has become the economic orthodoxy, that the country is like our personal finances, and once the money's gone, it's gone. All right, but even for argument's sake, let's just say it was strictly like that. Labour have still taken the conscious decision to not commit to scrapping the child benefit cap, whilst also hinting at cutting taxes for the rich. This is a political decision. Right now, Labour are engaging in a class war, almost, if not the same as the Tories. They are a horrible political party, and Rachel Reeves is a clown, and I think she's utterly, utterly clueless on the economy.